To make this more useful, I've decided to break this down into 2 or 3 parts. So we'll call the last one the introduction phase. And in this phase, I'll go over some of the tools I've discovered so you can zero in on actual useful stuff and not have to just listen to me ramble on. After listening to a lot of motivational videos and different people and trying to get an idea of where even to begin, one thing I found fairly useful is setting a routine, because I kind of like Dwayne Johnson's approach is get up at 4 a.m., do cardio, then go to the gym, or in my case, go out for a walk or somewhere else if there's no gym available. And by that point, it's probably around 6 a.m. or so, and other people, if they're in a household with you, are getting up, or if you have to go to work. Most people work during the days. Or if you work during nights, do it the other way around, or whenever you find time. It's just finding a block. A good mindset will start with a good physical as well. It's physical, mental, the homeostasis, it goes together. If one is poisoned or not being maintained properly, you're going to have a hard time maintaining the other as well. But if you can do them both in unison, eventually doing mental, physical, and emotional all in one, that will lead to a self-sustaining, after a while, self-sustaining attitude, self-sustaining physiology. The body will take care of itself if you treat it properly. It will help you along. You have to work together. Same with the mind. As Goggins would say, you have to go to war with yourself. You have to realize that the only person that can change you is you, and be dedicated and committed to actually starting and maintaining and not giving up. Maintaining a routine is good because it's like every morning you have to fight with yourself, but you can win. Every time you don't push snooze and say, just 10 more minutes or whatever, you get out of bed, you do something. That means you won. You won that fight. You started the day with a win. You just have to continue from there. Every time you do this, it becomes more and more self-reinforcing. Because once you start with 10 more minutes and then something else, negative reinforcement loops, and this is why a lot of people fail to succeed at anything, because again, they'll just take that warm, comfortable blanket of misery and say, hey, I'm happy here. It's like, if I do this, it's going to take effort. There might be pain. There might be work. It's challenging. If you have those attitudes, you're just not ready to change yet. Once you learn to conquer those and have the desire, you've been on bottom long enough. That's when these tools will come in handy. If you get up in the morning, you win that fight. As Goggins would say, you avoid becoming civilized. Civilized means you just take the easy way out and you become comfortable, and it's mediocre, and maybe you're satisfied, maybe you're not. If you do that, guaranteed at some point you're going to have some regrets in life, because eventually you may ask yourself after seeing something and be, what if? What if? But you're asking it as in, what if I had done this? What would have happened if I had done this? However, if you jump out of bed ready to go, you do your thing, whether you want to or not. And I can tell you from personal experience, a lot of mornings don't feel like doing it, and that seems to be general consensus for most successful people as well. They do things because they don't feel like it. They eventually get their drive from that, moving beyond motivation. Now, when you get to that level, you don't have the regrets of, what if I didn't have slept in extra 2 hours today or something, and they were out there making use of that time, doing something When they say what if, they're saying, well, that guy said I can't do that, or I don't have the physical capability of this yet. But what if I could? What if with enough practice, enough learning, enough hours spent, what if I can do that? That's the what if of successful people. That's the mindset. I've learned there's a pretty common thing called imposter syndrome. I've learned a lot over these last 10 months. Imposter syndrome is where it just judge ourselves based off of other people. And we say, oh, well, you're just more talented than me, or he's smarter than me, or she's just naturally gifted, or always. We see people on higher levels, people doing better, people doing other things, people doing incredible things, and we just are in awe because the awareness is not there of the 10,000 hours they put into getting to that few seconds you see them at. Most people won't look at the work. They won't look at the pain, the suffering, the time spent. How many hundreds of times have they failed along the way, but got back up? If they couldn't make it work, they found another way, and they kept trying. How do I know this? Because they made it. You don't make it accidentally to the top. You don't make it accidentally to being the best, or generally even really good at something without putting a lot of effort into it. And it seems through research that even some successful people, occasionally even they have to battle the imposter syndrome. But when it creeps up, they just push it aside. It's essentially just your brain playing tricks on you. The important thing to realize when it comes is it's not real. The guy sitting up at the head of the class, doing the best on tests, studies have shown that they are actually almost more prone to the imposter syndrome than some of the guys in the back of the class. Maybe that's because some of the guys in the back just don't even try. So, convince themselves they don't care. The more effort you put out, the more self-conscious some people become. But if you can get past that, another huge part of this is accountability. Not accountability to other people, that doesn't matter. We all say it does, society dictates it. Society is variable, not just what country you're in, but what culture you're a part of as well. You can have sub-societies within societies. But as far as accountability really goes, all that matters is here. What is your accountability to yourself? When you look back and you're doing your self-affirmations, are they real? It should be based on reality. You should be judging, I don't know if I could do this. Then you look back and where were you 10 months ago? What were you doing? Have you made changes? If you have, look at those changes. If you've been really trying, there should be some major steps in there. They may look small from where you're at. They may look tiny from where you want to be. But every step is just that. It's one more step. One more inch. You're that much closer. This is where Goggins goes on about the dog mentality, where you never settle. And don't say, oh, that's good enough, or I don't feel like going any farther. You talk yourself out of it. If you really want to do something, you really want to achieve that goal, you're going to have to push yourself past that and say, no, that's not good enough. I can do more. If I push harder, say, how far can I go? Can I achieve this goal and continue past? Can I exceed whatever limits I think they have? Generally, the answer is yes. If you're willing to stick with it and push past. And with that as a concept of just always be hungry. If you're never satisfied with where you are, you'll always have the drive to continue on. Just always be hungry. Always be willing to improve and be better. Another motivator for dog mentality is because nobody else wants to do it. Once you learn, it's great to get to the top of the mountain. You just made it. It was a hell of a hike to get there. It's a great view. But that's not really what's important. I'm sure you've heard the old saying, it's the journey, not the destination, that matters. And I guarantee the same is true in life. Because if you're really trying to change yourself and become successful, like the people who already have, you have to fall in love with the process. You have to actually take joy in the pain and the suffering. Not only just push it to the side and not let it bother you, but actually embrace it. When you make it to that level, you can achieve anything and push past anything. All you have to do is listen to the stories of these people out there and you'll see. It's real. That's what makes it so difficult. Most people don't want to do that. I know this is the reason why I'm still fighting with myself, because specifically for me, one is aerial dance. At 270 pounds 10 months ago, flexibility of a petrified penguin and endurance of a pregnant yak is an unlikely choice of venues for myself to embark upon. 10 months later, I haven't given up. It's the longest time in my life I pursued anything. And I'm still trying to find new ways to assist in this, that, but also every day I'm trying to give a little more and push in and get over this fear of the pain involved and like the flexibility, and they're big muscles. They hurt when you try to stretch them and flex and everything else. But that's just part. It's, as Goggins would say, you have to tell yourself, this is your life now. If you don't want this, don't start. Because you have to see it through. Nobody's going to do it for you. And if you're only going to give 50, 60%, you may or may not make it. If you let the self-doubts get you, eventually it will wane away, because it was only motivation. It wasn't drive. It wasn't passion. As they say, you have to want it as much as you want to breathe, as much as you want to drink, as much as you want to eat. Or even if you don't, your body's going to make you want that. If you could turn your desires and goals into that same thing where it's no longer a want, it's a need, then you're going to do it. Because no matter how many times you fail, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how bad the suffering, you'll get up again and keep going. And then that's how people make it. That's self-sustaining. Just have to break the negative reinforcement loops. And I've been up and down numerous times this year. I could sit here and blame 2020 and a couple of things that went on this year, but that'd be all bullshit. There's not a single thing that happened externally this year that's harder than what I'm trying to do to myself. Anything else is just an excuse. There are ways around everything, workarounds. If you're going to be honest with yourself and not lie, that's one hard-ass road. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm finally, last week or two, getting the clarity, throw this mindset down. And that's where accountability comes in. When you stop just looking at this, researching it, talking about it, and actually begin practicing it actively. I know what needs to be done. I just have to jump in the fire and keep pushing, no matter what. A lot of this year I've been trying to push forward and run, but it's like one hand on the railing, just holding on. And unless I let go with everything, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. You could look at it from AA point of view, or PTSD, a raw, brutal approach like Goggins took, or even an actor's approach of just taking everything and being comfortable enough to let it go. You just push it in the back so you can embrace the mentality and empathy towards the character you're trying to portray. Yourself will always be there. There's always that authenticity. But all your worries, all your fears, all your thoughts, all that kind of stuff, when you're in the moment, you have to push that stuff away. You have to just let it go. To be a really good actor, you have to be in that moment. You have to be that character. Everything that's you is still underneath it, of course. Like I said, so the authenticity is not a problem. But you can't be using your emotions and everything else to be this other person. To do that, you have to be in touch with your emotions so deeply. Open with yourself. But all of these approaches kind of go on the same sort of line. It's the total acceptance of yourself, but it's also the understanding. From what I understand, that's why so many people fail. They're just too scared or not willing to take the time to get that introspective, to dig that deep, to dredge up every last little memory and get comfortable enough with themselves that nothing outside can touch them again. Sounds like such a crazy thing to do. Now that I know it's actually possible and have heard how some people have actually done it, through their, not just their stories, but they've even broken it down. Like Goggins, if you listen to all his things, he'll break down every last thing for you. It's like an instruction manual for repairing your soul. At least with me, my biggest problem, I think, is not knowing how to do stuff. Admittedly, I am a bit of a slow learner. That in itself is not a bad thing. But you just have to know where you're at. That just means it takes more time and different approaches. I've recently completed 2 MOOCs, online courses, learning how to learn in Mindshift. And this introduced me to a wide variety of tools I didn't know exist, which resonated really good with me because I've always been pretty open-minded. If you're going to have a solid mindset, I don't think you can be closed-minded or you're limiting yourself. You have to be open in every possible way to revolutionize yourself. One of the things that helped me the most going through life is dynamic innovation. Spontaneous creativity, if you will. Looking at things not just from one angle and saying, okay, there's this. And yeah, all right, there's this. But it's all one plane. And if it doesn't work, you just start looking at, you say, oh, I'm looking at different angles. But throw it away. Look at this. Look at that. Go not just from different angles. Sometimes you have to throw stuff away and start over again. A lot of times people will say, okay, I started here. Now I went like this. That didn't work. So I'll go to here, and then, but they were always staying on the same path. It's like, well, if I just change this and backtrack a little, now throw it away. If it's not working, the entire concept could be wrong. Yes, if you put a lot of work into something, you're going to have the idea, it's like, oh man, well, I spent all that time thinking of it. You have the mindset that's the closed-minded, that I can make this work. I can make this work. Not always. You got to know when to give it up and start over again. You got to know when to say, okay, I'm going to try an entirely new path. I'm going to go, it can be totally random too, which actually helps sometimes, I think. Like, let's say it could be something like, I'm studying dancing and then I'm having problems with something. So I look over something with like computer programming or oceanography or something completely unrelated. And sometimes your brain will make connections between the weirdest things. And then all of a sudden the light goes off and I get it now. And then you see the right path and it all makes sense. It seems almost impossible to predict what's going to trigger that light to go off. But if you only have one path, you have one chance. If you try attacking things from 7 different angles, you have much more possibilities. And of course, be open-minded enough to not say, oh, well, this is my way, it's the right way, and listen to everybody else. I mean, find people that have done what you're trying to do and see how would they do it? How have they done it? In this day and age, almost every piece of information you need is out there. All you need is to keep the proper mindset. Keep the open-mindedness. Not get frustrated. When I started on my path initially, through Zendaya, I actually learned about social entrepreneurship. It was a concept I was actually completely unfamiliar with. I've always wanted to give back to, people. I try to help out where I can and have sometimes, but it's always been on a smaller scale. As they say, how can you love someone else if you don't love yourself? And if you don't have the motivation to get up and really do much, you're not going to have much to offer other people as well. What blew me away was just some of the huge changes some people have actually been putting out into the world that I'd never heard of. And I've asked a couple other people since, and a lot of other people are also unfamiliar of it. It took me about a month of research to understand what it was all about. The different tools and ideas such as design thinking and deep listening, mind maps, other very useful techniques. Most impressive is the fact that through design thinking, they will just exhaust out ideas and then go create new ones out of nowhere. Design thinking is along the lines of what I was talking about. Whereas similar to a business, you have a game plan, you have it designed out. You work it out, you find something functional, you establish something that could take years and incredible finances, finding donors, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, you go through so much work. And like businesses, sometimes it succeeds, sometimes it fails. But unlike a lot of businesses, social entrepreneurs will generally look at what they built, even if it is successful, and say, can it be better? And they will do something that most businesses won't do. And that is sometimes just tear it all down to the foundation and just start over. If they think there's a better way. This desire for constant improvement is just amazing. Mind maps are a great way to help your mindset. I'm using one right now to assist me in making this video. As you can see here, I just started with the first term of mindset. I categorized things on the side that were negative and things on the side that were in a positive direction. Things I aspire to do and problems I currently have. This is nice because from here you can just start a new topic. You have a new one. Do subtopics, as many as you want out, or as many deep. If you decide you don't want it over here, you can put it over here. This enables the ability of just throwing ideas out. You can throw as many random ideas out as they come into your head. And that's the point of a mind map. You just throw it and they're like, okay, yeah, I think this, and that's how I started this. And then after you're done with that, oh, well, maybe that should be an actual topic, not a subtopic, or maybe, I don't know, that should be over here, or, you can adjust later, or, I don't like that, get rid of it, Fully customizable. This is Wise Mapping, is an online tool for creating mind maps. But yeah, mind maps themselves are a very useful thing because like I say, you just throw out the ideas and later organize them. And I'm using this kind of as a sheet to go by. This was video number 1. Well, actually, that ended up over here on that. And I started here and working my way down for video number 2. Last thing on accountability is constantly challenge yourself through repetition. Doing something once is hardly ever going to get it right and remember it and maintain it. By doing things over and over again and challenging yourself to do it better every time, to learn better ways of doing it or how to do things better. Constantly challenging yourself to up the ante, to be the better you. Then you'll be able to look back, and that's where those positive affirmations come in that are real. Because those are things you did. You improved on this. You're doing this better than you were yesterday, better than you were last month. You've made that leap. You're that much closer to your goal. Whether it's an inch or a mile, it doesn't matter. You're closer. That's all that really matters. These things take time.